Hello and welcome to the final Hooligan report for the 2014-15 season. I'm your host, as always, SM, and with me today I have Cruyff.
Hello.
And I have Bojan.
Hi guys.
Welcome, boys. It's season's finally wrapped up. We had the Champions League final on the weekend, so I'll get each of your thoughts just briefly on how you've seen the season as a whole, and we'll talk about more detail after that.
I think the highlight of the season was the FA Cup final. It was the best game of the entire season for everyone, I think, and it was a great time to lift the trophy. And I have one question. What is better than lifting the FA Cup once?
What?
Lifting it twice in a row.
Yeah, beating a Minnow 4-0 was certainly an exciting match, wasn't it?
Well, it was a very convincing performance from the start. Cazorla, Ozil, Alexis all played very well. Giroud, na 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 na. Hey Giroud. I'll stop carrying on like a hooligan now. Season overall, I think from an Arsenal perspective, we started poorly for the first half, but we sort of woke up in January and then excelled from there. But I think there's still a few deficiencies in the squad that need to be worked on, such as maybe a goalkeeper. Coquelin being the DM is good, but I think we need more backup there. Maybe another centre forward. The Premier League as a whole, there could have been 5 or 6 teams I think that could have been relegated. Chelsea, far and out, deserved winners in my opinion, and I don't have that much more to add.
Bojan?
For United coming into this season, it was just all about getting into Champions League. However, way possible. So it's a pass for this season for Van Gaal, but the bar will be set considerably higher for next season, considering that we're going to spend a lot of money as well on the first team. In terms of the title race was a bit of a kind of damp squib in the end because Chelsea got a decent lead and no one could really, to their credit, they didn't slip up too many times, a few draws here and there, but no one could put, outside of Arsenal right at the end of the season, could put together a kind of 10-game run of just winning games to put pressure on them, really.
I've got to say, it was amusing seeing Manchester City trying their best to come third in a 2-horse race.
I know. That was amusing. In terms of the relegation race, Cruyff's right. I mean, there are a lot of. Well, I think the Premier League standard as a whole isn't actually that high, and there's a lot of teams in the bottom half of the league who, if things went slightly differently, could have found themselves in that bottom 3. I mean, Leicester really pulled it out of their arse this year. Sunderland pulled it really out of their arse last year, and the same again this year. Newcastle were almost there. Hull dropped a lot of points early, and I remember you commenting on that a fair bit, SM, about how frustrated you were, and everyone was saying, "Oh, you'll be fine, you'll be fine."
Yeah.
At the start of the year, just too many kind of draws when you were dominating or
lost. Hull as well. Sorry to cut you off. Hull as well did have many unlucky circumstances facing them in terms of offside goals that should have been counted or ridiculous own goals going in against them and whatnot. But I mean, that's football, really.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where I think I've said a couple of times. I mean, it felt really frustrating throughout the season because the standard that we could play at was far and away better than what a lot of the sides were producing, such as Sunderland and Villa at the time, and that sort of thing. QPR. Well, I mean, QPR did go down, but I mean,
thank God they're gone.
I mean, of the sides that stayed up, for large stretches of the season, I felt like we were playing better than them, and Leicester as well, but they were able to get those runs of wins together that really gave them a bit of momentum, especially Leicester, and Sunderland right at the end.
In terms of a Leicester perspective, I think it'd be very interesting if what they did was a fluke, or if they can actually maintain that next season, because for a lot of this season they were not very good at all.
I posed that question to Jats, and the danger for Leicester now is, do they retain the bulk of their squad and kind of go again with the same squad? Because the argument would be, well, they got, 6 or 7 wins in a row.
Yeah,
so that squad's capable. But, as you're saying,
the circumstances they did it was very...
Yeah, exactly. That's the danger.
Momentum's an important thing and underrated, but I mean, and all credit to them for doing it, but I mean, they left it bloody late, and for large portions, they were terrible.
I mean, to their credit, they've already signed Christian Fuchs. I don't. Be careful with that pronunciation.
Fuchs, yeah.
And
German.
I think they're turning Huth into a permanent signing, which are two really good signings for them, I think. Because I do think they needed to bolster their defence. And then I think the other area they need to address is their midfield, because I think their strikers weren't necessarily the issue, even when they weren't scoring. It's just that they weren't creating enough from their midfield.
Well, yeah, you see, Ulloa can get on the end of a chance and knock it in. I don't think, their forwards are a problem at all.
And they've got Vardy and Nugent and Kramaric as well, so they're kind of well stocked up top.
Do they have Much as well, or is that someone else I'm thinking?
Much was at QPR, sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I think they should probably look at, sorry to bring this up, SM, but look at what Hull did in the off-season, which was kind of bring in these, big names that didn't necessarily fit in, like Abel Hernandez. And who was the guy that you sent back to France?
Ben Arfa.
Yeah, so maybe bring in guys who aren't quite the star names, but just complement the squad a bit more. Not too much turnover. Just say that a decent central midfielder. The defence, they can probably survive on the defence. They might be able to pick up a new fullback. But if they've got, I'm not sure if he'd move there, but talking about the strikers, if they got the opportunity, and there'll be lots of competition, but to say just try and get Charlie Austin, just bid 15 million or something, just try and blow everyone out of the water and just get a star striker in there.
Yeah.
Then I think they'll be able to consolidate next season.
I don't think Austin would be interested in Leicester, to be honest.
He might not be, but you have to try. I'd rather them do that than go and get like a Hernandez type.
Yeah, the worst is that Austin will say no, but yeah, I agree. You've got to try.
Yeah, I think Austin, maybe Southampton, I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's where I'd say him.
But I can see he's a decent player, and if he's scoring goals at QPR, you think he can only do better at a better club. But Southampton or someone in that range sort of thing, he should be. Maybe even Spurs, as much as that pains me to say. But because
they don't really have a decent backup. When you're looking at
Soldado
and Adebayor as your backup. If Kane sort of has second season syndrome or whatever,
goes down injured or whatever,
he struggles to back up, or he gets injured or something. They don't have a lot to draw on really.
And they're bloody jammy 1-0 wins.
Yeah, that
they got from September to December with Eriksen scoring 89th minute in about 6 games. Spurs are another lucky side.
And that's it. And just touching back on Hull a little bit. As you say, throughout the season you have your poor luck, and people say, it goes, swings and roundabouts. It'll come around and you'll get your own luck and that sort of thing.
Hull didn't get it,
but you're kind of waiting every week for it, and it doesn't really come. And we're looking. They did their goal of the season competition recently, and 2 of the goals came from the same game against Newcastle, where we went 2-0 up thanks to some fantastic goals from Jelavic and Diame. And we actually ended up drawing that game 2-2 because Cisse came on and got a double. And it's those sorts of games, and we had a 1-1 draw with Stoke where they scored in the 87th minute or something. We conceded in the 88th minute to Arsenal. We conceded in the 90th minute to Man City. We conceded late to Spurs. All those goals, all those last-minute goals, that's relegation right there because, 2 points dropped against Arsenal and City, 1 point to Spurs. Sorry?
Yeah, give yourself 2 extra points, you're staying up.
Yeah, well, exactly. And so it does hurt a lot because you look at some of the sides that did stay up, and yes, they had, Newcastle basically had that 6 or 7 winning run early in the season or middle of the season, and that basically
was that under
protected
Pardew?
Yeah, it was, and I think they beat Chelsea in amongst that, and they beat Spurs, and those results kept them up really. But it's frustrating because yes, they were they beat better teams perhaps, and they had a winning run. But perhaps we were over the entire season, our performances were on average better than theirs.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be a bit like when Norwich went down, where you could say maybe Norwich didn't really deserve to go down because apart from being thrashed by Liverpool twice or Suarez twice, they weren't too bad. They just had a really tough run.
Didn't Man City pump them like 6-0 as well? I think, or is that maybe that was another season?
No, I think that was. So actually, yeah,
I know what you mean.
I think it's tough when because even when just as the fixture came out, everyone looked at our fixture and said, "Geez, they've got it as rough as Norwich, because just like Norwich, we've ended the season with 6 or 7 of the top sides.
Yeah.
And that at the end of the season, even regardless of who, like when you've played people, you need that momentum of a couple of wins right at the end, and it's hard to get. So
against the bigger sides, yeah.
So arguably maybe Norwich didn't deserve to go down, and we've seen that they've bounced straight back up by retaining most of their squad. So hopefully similar for Hull. I mean, we're making all the right noises. We've said, Andy Robertson, we'll put a 30 million price tag on him. Robbie Brady, 15 million on him. So
you've put a 30 million price tag on him, but realistically, what would Hull accept?
Well, that's what they're saying. That's what they're saying. They wouldn't want to accept anything.
If someone comes in and bids, say, 20 million, that's a lot at the championship level.
Yeah, look, you probably would accept that. I guess when they say, and for Robbie Brady, we'd probably accept, 8 or 9 million or something like that. But by saying that, we're sort of basically saying, get stuffed. We don't want to lose these players, and that's what we got to be saying. We have no pressure to sell. We're not in any financial difficulty. We'll offload Hernandez and Jelavic and Ndoye and probably get, I don't know, 10, 15 million for those three.
And you can reinvest.
And that's it. And then we just reinvest, and that's our championship squad.
Yeah. Hopefully championship winning squad for your sake.
Yeah, well, hopefully. We've been installed as favourites to win the title, which is a bit
already?
Which is a bit of a weird feeling.
Some silverware.
For a bit of silverware, yeah. We've never won the championship before, so it'd be a maiden championship title, so it'd be a bit interesting. But it'll certainly be an interesting summer in terms of who goes and who stays.
As long as you still make an appearance in the Premier League thread each week, I'll be happy.
I'll try to. I'll dig my boots into someone, I'm sure.
Yeah. Just dig at Liverpool. That's always fun.
Yeah. Well, we might move on then, and we'll talk about the other huge story that's broken in the last few weeks, which we've probably all got a bit to say about, which is the FIFA corruption scandal, which has sort of captured the attention of everyone on the board, and understandably so. And there was news that came out this morning where FIFA's basically admitted that if they are found guilty of corruption with regards to Russia and Qatar, that there may well be a re-vote. And I mean, there's been whispers of that for years and years now, but could you guys see that actually happening?
I bloody hope so. That just came out this morning actually about the re-vote. So, I mean, I don't know if Australia's actually that viable to host it, because people are saying, build this stadium here, build this stadium there, but what are we going to do with them after they're done? Perth aren't going to fill a 45,000 seat stadium week in, week out. Simple as that.
I think America could get it, to be honest.
And America would host from all accounts I've heard, World Cup 94 was brilliant.
Except for the final, which was bloody terrible. But, yeah.
But, I mean, America, maybe even England, so it's... I'd like us to get it, but at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't.
I think if they were really serious and they wanted to come out and show that they were keen to fight the corruption and all of that, they could very easily strip it from Russia and Qatar and give it to England and America respectively, because the stadiums are already in place.
They could give it to us as well, because they said the Asian continent needs a World Cup and they give it to Qatar. Technically, we're part of Asia.
Yeah.
It's contradictory to take it off Qatar and not give it to another Asian country. But, I mean, I can't see it happening personally, but it'd be nice, but I think it'll go to England or the States or something.
But I guess, I mean, in the sense that it'd be very easy to give it to, say, America in with not much warning, because of the fact that they already have everything in place. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, just to interject, that they won't take it off Russia, because politically that'd be an absolute nightmare. They can take it off Qatar quite easily, but I highly doubt it's going to go to England or America, because...
Putin may kill them.
No, it's too difficult. So you've got the FBI for America unveiling all this corruption, and their old arch enemies, Russia, have got the next World Cup, right? So they're not going to take it off that, because it's just far too hard. And then who's been the most critical of FIFA over the last 10 years? The English. So they're not going to just give it to England, they're not going to give it to two Western countries, I don't think, two consecutive World Cups. So I think they'll leave Russia as is, and then just have as people would say, a clean, transparent voting process for the other one.
Apparently, overnight, more stuff has come out about the 10 million to South Africa went to Bladder or something.
Yeah, well, it sounds like the FBI are closing in on Bladder now.
Good.
Which is
well, the only way FIFA changes is if they get rid of everyone.
But then you don't want someone like Platini at the top either. I
He's just as bad.
I hope Figo reruns again or something.
I think honestly they need to get somebody in who'll be ruthless in terms of changing the makeup of FIFA. With the fact that minnow countries have the same amount of power as an England or a Germany or something, which I just don't necessarily see as the right way to go. I understand the principle behind it in terms of equality and fairness and all that sort of thing, and not just making the fat cats fatter. But when you can have
too late for that.
Yeah, but when you can have your Qatar and I don't know United Arab Emirates or whoever banding together and having the same amount of power as say England, France, and Germany, I don't necessarily see that as the right way to go.
Well, apparently the Asian Federation came out and said they're fully supporting Qatar to host the World Cup, but I mean, obviously they haven't included us in that because Australia obviously doesn't support that. So
yeah,
I mean, who knows what will happen? But a huge few months coming up. No doubt.
The other interesting aspect is we obviously went against the Asian Federation by not voting for Blatter, and there has been some talk of any potential repercussions from that. Do you see the Asian Confederation taking that as an excuse to try and push us back out of Asia?
No.
I don't think they have the power to do that. I think that's more a FIFA thing, but we're probably not too popular.
That is a FIFA thing. It won't matter if they clean the whole thing up anyway. But don't be mistaken for thinking that all this corruption is just through the Asian and African areas, because France voted for Qatar, right, for this World Cup. And additionally, if you go back through the previous World Cup voting process, Spain and all of Europe voted for Germany to have the 2006 World Cup. And then everyone, in exchange for basically getting the way I did it was that the whole of Europe voted for Germany, and then the next year, the whole of Europe voted for South Africa, and then the whole of Africa voted for Germany, and then you understand how the cycle kind of works. They all do it.
I just can't imagine the German being dirty. I mean, Germans just seem to run things so well. I can't imagine that being under the table sort of thing.
To be honest,
I'm not saying like it was cash under the table, but there's certainly collusion. There's
maybe that's naivety on my part, but I thought a German thing would always be clean.
I guess. And my
perspective
of it is, I mean, the metaphor you could use is, I guess, the Tour de France, in the sense that even the most innocent or trying to be the cleanest racers will know that in order to try and win, they're going to have to cheat because everyone else is cheating. And,
so if one doesn't, why can't we?
Exactly. Or even just in the sense that to make the playing field level, you have to collude and you have to cheat because of the fact that everyone else is doing it. And you'd have to get to a point where you basically wiped out all corruption, made it a transparent voting process, made it as clean as you could to get back to that base level where there is no corruption, there is no collusion or bribery or whatever, so that there would be no need for a Germany or a France or whoever to go out and try and win that way. That makes sense?
Yeah.
So you'd need the equivalent of drug testing brought into the FIFA voting process, and I'd have no idea how you do that. It's because it'd be very hard to prevent collusion. I think I don't know how you would necessarily.
Because you just buy another phone, like a prepaid phone, bang.
Yeah.
To send messages on whatever. Everyone's got this account.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's going to be very interesting what's going to happen, particularly with Blatter. Just can't wait for the day he's walking out of a place in handcuffs.
Now, are they looking at bringing in an interim president before the election? Because I know there was some talk of they were trying to see if they could bring in Prince Ali.
Apparently, Blatter's staying till between December and March when the election will be held.
Okay. And
he's going to try and reform FIFA and clean it up himself.
Very nice of him.
Apparently his invitation to the Champions League final got lost in the mail because he didn't make an appearance there, and I don't think he'll be making many more public appearances for FIFA.
He won't leave Switzerland. There's no way he's going to leave Switzerland again.
Yeah.
Because I think, what is it? The law is that you can't be extradited if you're a Swiss citizen without
so neutral or something,
without your consent or something like that. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, I can't see him. And apparently the Qatar Football Federation have told all of their voting committee not to set foot on American soil.
Yeah. Which, of course, is a huge proclamation for their innocence in all of
guilt.
this.
Yeah, exactly. Admits guilt. But I mean, I hope they all get caught, but I don't foresee it actually happening. But I mean, all we can do is wait, I guess, and see what happens.
And we will. But speaking of the Champions League final, what were your takes on the game? Did either of you watch the actual game itself or catch
I
up?
caught the replay last night. You go, Bojan.
Yes, I saw the game. A bit bleary-eyed, but Neymar was amazing in the first half an hour, and him and Iniesta set up that first goal beautifully for Rakitic. I thought the refereeing some people I've seen disagree with me on this, but I thought the refereeing was pretty piss poor in the first half. I mean, they just wouldn't let Juventus go anywhere near a Barcelona player, and it almost resulted in Vidal getting sent off after about 20 minutes for repetitive
I thought Vidal
fouling.
was quite rash. I thought Vidal was quite rash and lucky, to be honest.
Who was the ref? Was it
Cüneyt Çakır from Turkey?
From Turkey, okay.
But but then after that, and Barca were just all over Juve, and I thought that this could be another blowout.
Whitewash.
Yeah, but then Juventus kind of came into the game and got that good goal from Morata. I think it was Liechtensteiner went down the right and played it to Marchisio, crossed it into Tevez, and Tevez feigned to hit it first time and then let the ball run across his body with his back to goal, and I had that shot. And Ter Stegen, he's got to step up. He was bloody awful. He was awful in that game. And he just parried the rebound straight to Morata, who finished it off well. And then it really could have gone either way from there, and Juve grabbed the ascendancy, and the ball got played into Pogba in the box, and Alves picked him up and put him on his ass. And for some reason, the ref didn't give a penalty. I mean, even in the Premier League, where they don't give penalties for holding people, that was a stone dead penalty. And then from that next play, from that counter attack, Barca scored their goal with the Suarez tap in.
I thought Barca played exceptionally well, but I think Juve had it. I thought it was quite an entertaining final, to be honest. I mean, it wasn't a classic, but it was end to end for a lot of the portions of the game, and with some better finishing, Juve could have been back in it. But Barca are just they're unstoppable, really. If you look at their forward line, is as we all know, is ridiculous. But it's to be able to stop Messi, Suarez, and Neymar. To be able to stop one of them is hard enough, let alone trying to stop three. And the way they move the ball around is absolutely ridiculous. And that set up first goal, the switch from Messi. I think it was the first touch from Alba to flick it to Neymar, and then who played Iniesta through, and then hit it on and then played it through to Rakitic, and then scored. It was absolutely mind-blowing play. But at Barca, you sort of expect that, and it's nothing new really. And the way they played for the entire game was very. It was scintillating at times, but Juve did have their chances too, I think.
Absolutely. They had plenty of chances, and Tevez on another day could have scored a brace. There were a couple of counter-attacks where he was hitting them from the edge of the box and just spooned them over the bar. And
and Marchisio had a few, I think Vidal. So, I mean, Juve, I think Juve didn't embarrass themselves at all. I think that they can go out with their head held high. Unfortunate to see Pirlo not win, but that's football. There can only be one winner.
He's off to Man City now.
Apparently. But it was nice to see, on the other hand, it was nice to see Xavi go out with his 25th trophy of his career.
Cheers.
It's absolutely mental, but I mean, Barca were the best team in Europe, and I don't think anyone will deny that this season, and they're thoroughly deserved winners.
Where do you guys rate this Barca side in comparison to
better than 09?
Guardiola side's better?
Yeah. They had, I think they've scored more, conceded less, and they might have amassed more points as well.
For me, it's kind of hard to say because and I know injuries are a big part of the game, but they really didn't play a full strength team in the Champions League in their last 5 or 6 games.
But when at the same time, you can only beat what's in front of you.
Oh, I know that. That's what I said. Injuries are a big part of the game.
You sound like Kaiser Chief. Might have to call you old KC now.
There is some merit. I mean, there's not like to the extent that he's saying.
All right,
but
KC.
there is some merit that Bayern's team was basically half of their reserves, and Juve were missing their best central defender. Now, I mean, that doesn't take away from their accomplishment, but I find it hard to compare them to the 09 team, which I personally think was better.
But look at, even besides the Champions League, look at the way they performed in the league. Not that the Spanish league is a great measuring stick, but I mean, for Suarez, Messi, and Neymar to score 120 whatever goals between them is ridiculous.
Yes.
And I don't think that happened at Barca last time. I'm not sure, but I assume it didn't. I mean, either side really, they're both two of the best sides ever.
I think their strengths might have lay in different areas. I think obviously this season their forward line is easily the best in the world. But perhaps back in 09 it was more their midfield and their passing game that really tore teams apart. And they didn't have those necessarily strikers at the top to amass those huge amounts of goals, but they spread it perhaps more evenly amongst the team. But if as you say, they're scoring more goals as a collective team
and conceding less.
Yeah. And that's still pretty impressive. I think Type Club, in one of his very rare complimentary posts about Barcelona, said that for his age, Neymar's finishing is absolutely phenomenal, and it's hard to disagree because how old is he? He's only about
23.
Yeah. So he's going to have an outstanding career ahead of him. Probably following in Messi's footsteps in terms of staying at Barca. I mean, you can't really see him moving on.
I wouldn't see him leave, unless he had a falling out, whatever, in City or Chelsea came in with a massive offer. But I think he'll stay at Barca. I don't think he's got much reason to leave, really. He's at the best side in the world with the best player in the world, and along with Suarez, another top 5 player. So
of course.
He's got no real reason to leave. And I think Suarez was great last night too, or the night before rather. I thought he was absolutely fantastic.
Well, who was it, Faith, saying congratulations to Liverpool for developing Suarez and Mascherano?
Didn't even bother. didn't even bother, but absolute crap.
But just on a last point about the Spanish league, do you see the potential renegotiating of the TV rights in Spain as affecting the league at all?
Yes, but in the long term.
Sorry?
I think it will affect the league, but you won't be able to see the changes for probably another 5 to 10 years.
Do you think that would affect the ability of Barca and Real to retain players, or their outside funding will still?
They have the pulling power.
I think it'll significantly increase the ability of the lesser clubs to retain their players and bring in other players.
Yeah,
and might be a bit more competitive.
So they
maybe not right at the top, but sort of They
might be able to improve the standard of the league defensively, so that Real and Barca, whenever they pay anyone in the bottom 6, they're not just knocking 7 past them without breaking sweat.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
And inflating goal-scoring figures. I mean, I said it yesterday on the MSN thread that while this is great, could they pull those in England?
It would certainly be interesting to see, and it's really hard to know how they would go against, a Leicester or a Crystal Palace or something, whether they would absolutely flatten them or whether they'd keep it quite respectable.
To death, yeah.
It's not that hard to work out.
That's my point.
I mean, if you look at Ronaldo, right? He probably, let's just say, scored about 15 to 20 goals less in England, so he's probably going at just before he left at about 35 goals.
Did he score 42 in his last season overall?
That was in all competitions.
In all competitions, yeah.
Yeah, so a bit less, and the difference is that you see Neymar rolling around after being brushed by a defender last night. Imagine Imagine Alex Bruce with a full-blooded challenge on Neymar. Bloke wouldn't get up for 2 weeks.
There were a couple of Hull fans suggesting that Juventus needed to import Alex Bruce to deal with Suarez. Suarez couldn't score a goal against Alex Bruce in about 3 appearances, I think. He just got kicked to death by him.
Wow.
So I mean, there's no doubt these players would still dominate. And we saw that with Suarez. Yes, he dominated, but then he goes to Spain and there's scored 15 more goals. It's not because he's markedly better than he was last year.
It's because he's in a better side.
He's in a better side. There's a shitload more protection, and they reward gamesmanship over there a lot more. And that's not criticising Suarez because all of the Barcelona team and all of the bloody Spanish players are like that. Before I get Liverpool fans having a go at me.
Dani Alves, absolutely detestable human being in all fronts. Just despicable. He does not come across likeable one bit. He looks like a bloody goblin for a start. Could have got a part in a Spider-Man movie playing the Green Goblin. but he just comes across as the most unlikable piece of garbage. Dives around and then gets up in the referee's face when the same thing happens against him. It's just got no time for him, really.
Are you talking about Robert Pires or Drogba or? Oh, sorry.
No, I was talking about Rooney actually.
Hopefully Alves comes to Man United just so he can troll you.
Well, on that topic, we might move on to transfer rumours, and I mean, I was going to ask you at the start, but I guess I'll ask you now, Cruyff. Word is that Arsenal aren't going to spend very much over the summer, I believe.
I haven't heard that, but I mean, I don't really read the paper.
But I don't know.
But with what Wenger says, you don't really. He trolls the media a lot of the time, so generally not. It's best not to pay attention to what he says because you got to do the exact opposite. But
who was the defensive mid that you were on the verge of signing? It was just waiting until the end of the season.
Vidal.
Was it Vidal?
Vidal.
Oh.
Yeah. Apparently, we met with his agent after the FA Cup final, so few
That's
Liverpool fans crying about tapping up, but when they do it, it's okay. But moving on, we're linked with Vidal. Apparently, Juventus will let him go for 28.5, but I don't know how true that is or if that will actually happen. But we're linked with Kondogbia too, I think, from Monaco. Yeah. But again, you don't know how true anything is really until it's on Sky Sports or the BBC website. Yeah. Then that's when you know it's legitimate. But I mean, I'd like us to sign I'd love for us to get Cech. Even though he's 32 is young for a goalkeeper, and for us to sign him would be a big signal of intent, and particularly to get him off Chelsea for a reasonable price, and Mourinho actually let him leave would be huge. And I think we have Coquelin, who's good, and obviously showed that he can contain the big boys. So I mean, another DM wouldn't go astray, and definitely another centre back and a forward or a right. We let Walcott go to Liverpool, whatever. We can have Sterling, and I mean, it's like for me, I'd be signing Cech because I think Czech's not an unrealistic signing. I'd go Cech. It might have been Schneiderlin actually. SM. Apparently, he wants to join Arsenal. So maybe Schneiderlin or Vidal, depending. But then, who's going to play second fiddle? I'd go for a right winger and a centre forward.
Yeah, you need more depth up top, I think.
Yeah, I mean we have Giroud, but when he's off, he's really off, and his head drops, and we don't get anything out of him. So it's
and when he was injured, you had Welbeck was your only striker, really.
Yeah, I like Welbeck, but he can't finish that well. I prefer Welbeck on the wing, to be honest. His work rate and speed is tremendous, and I think that really helps drag players out of the game. So,
that laugh from Bojan was just you're stuck with him now, mate.
I'm happy to have. It's better than Silvestre.
Yeah. I'm not saying that, he's crap or anything. This is exactly the thing that United supporters have been saying for years. Like, he's a very likable player. He works his ass off, and he runs all day. He's very fast, athletic. Unfortunately, I mean, if he could finish, he'd be world class, but he can't.
Yeah,
and that's the problem.
But I mean, I do like what but Theo as well showed that in the FA Cup final he can actually fluff chances and score decent goals too. But I mean, he had a hat trick in the FA Cup final. So it's just, I personally I'd get rid of Walcott and cash in on him. But I mean, we'll see what happens.
Walcott must live for final days because I swear he scores the bulk of his goals on the final day of the season. Whether it's for a new contract or what it is, I don't know. But he got a hat trick against West Brom, didn't he? Or whoever he played on the final day. Yeah, West Brom, I think it was. Yeah, and I think he did it against Newcastle a year or two ago as well. So he just lives for the final day of the season, really.
Yeah.
So if you offloaded him, where do you reckon he'd end up?
Liverpool.
Liverpool?
Yeah.
Do they need more wingers though?
Pardon?
Do they need more wingers though? If they're bringing in Milner?
If Sterling goes, I mean, which I think that's inevitable. Really, I can't see him sticking around unless Rodgers leaves. But I'd say Liverpool. He's not good enough for Chelsea. I don't think United would want him. I can't see him excelling outside of England. So I guess Liverpool's the only really viable option that could afford him and his wages, I guess. But I mean, if he can continue like he did in the last 2 games of the season, I'd be all for keeping him. But he spends a lot of time on the physio bench. So I mean, we'll just have to wait and see, I guess. But I'd love another right winger and a goal scoring centre forward.
And Bojan, what about United's targets? And keep in mind we do have a time limit, so you might not be able to list all of your targets.
That's alright. That's alright. Well, a lot still depends on De Gea. I mean, he's still undecided, but I think he will leave.
He's gone?
Still,
I think he's gone. Good as gone, I reckon.
I can't see him dragging it out like this and not telling people either way unless he's undecided. He's not going to do that to United, given what United had kind of stuck with him through thick and thin, and people forget at the start of his career it was average.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if we just kept Valdez and then brought in a young keeper to take over. We've got the Portuguese under-21 keepers, who's in our twos. Joel Pereira, he looks pretty good. So I wouldn't be surprised if he just sticks with Valdez next year.
Valdez was very impressive, I must say, on the final day. Much to breaking my heart, but made a couple of very impressive saves. So
yeah,
he hasn't lost anything. Yeah, shut up, Cruyff.
It was only against Hull.
Yeah, shut up.
How many Champions League winners have you got at Arsenal? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you got one, and we've got one as our bloody keeper. In fact, we got plenty, but one of them's just our reserve keeper.
Sanchez?
That's actually contribute.
Oh, did Sanchez win it?
Anyway.
You got wrecked. KC, you got
wrecked. This is supposed to be the United segment before we have to go. So we got Valdez.
So you've got Valdez, yeah. So you're just bringing
a keeper. Valdez, goalkeeper. Bring in a young keeper or promote a youth keeper. We need a fullback. Well, I hope he's looking for a fullback to replace Valencia. I mean, Valencia's serviceable, but he's not a
Klein? What do you think will be
challenging winner. Well, supposedly Val doesn't rate Klein, just on nut. So I mean, there's no doubt you could get an equally as good fullback outside of England for cheaper price than we're being quoted on Klein. All this talk of 15 million. Supposedly we bid. We bid in January 20 million and they turned us down. So the idea, kind of like that whole Vidal rumour, is absolute rubbish, right? Because considering they turned down 30 plus after he did his knee last year from United for Vidal, there's no way they're accepting less than that after he's proven himself. So I don't think we'll go for Klein. I don't know who the new right back is going to be, but it won't be Raphael. And I'm not sure what he's going to do with Valencia there.
I think the real danger a lot of sides have is trying to plunder Southampton again, and they need to have learnt their lesson from Liverpool last season, and to a lesser extent United with Shaw, I suppose. But the fees that will be required to prize players away from Southampton are just not worth the output you're going to necessarily get when there are a lot of cheaper alternatives available on the continent.
I think using Liverpool is a poor example.
Well, sure, but you look at. I'm of the opinion that Southampton, their defensive unit, is sort of better than the sum of its parts. And so you take out your Lovren and you take out your Shaw and Chambers and whoever, and they've brought in other defenders, and their defences continue to be just as strong, and they conceded,
definitely the way they're set up and tactical.
Yeah, I think
stuff.
which I think influences a lot the way that people perceive their defenders as individuals, which isn't necessarily translated when those individuals then move on to different clubs, like we've seen with Lovren and stuff. Lovren looked a world beater at Southampton.
I think Lovren as well suffered it the way they played with the high line. Do they play a high line? I think they do. But he just definitely caught out numerous times. The Liverpool defence really didn't have a shield for a lot of the season in midfield, so I think that definitely impacted.
But I think there is a danger that because of the way Southampton plays, it sort of maybe makes their defenders as individuals look a lot better than they necessarily are. So I think that
maybe if you're a good coach, then that makes a bit difference. And if you're Brendan Rodgers, then that's why you can't defend.
Yeah.
Given that he got rid of their best centre-half, Daniel Ada, and replaced him with that potato Lovren. Let's just not read into too much about this. So I think goalkeeper will be Valdez, new right back, whoever that'll be. Midfield will bring in a holding midfielder to transition Carrick out the team. Looks likely, I think United seem to have won the battle to get Gundogan. It's largely.
I read he was going to Bayern. I was that it was certain he was going to Bayern.
Yeah, and then Ed Woodward gave him a briefcase of cash, and now he's come to United apparently. So, I mean, well, that is what the Premier League is now. It's like, well, yeah, you can go to these other teams, but we've got more money, so come here.
Yeah.
And invariably,
Yeah.
I say, yeah, that sounds good.
I think the signing of... Sorry, you go.
So, Goodland coming in will be great. If he can, and we've already locked up Depay, and I think we'll bring in a centre forward.
It's good to get start if it comes in.
And though he does in pre-season, he didn't start Herrera for the first 6 months the first half of the season.
That's true.
So it depends how he plays. And there's rumours about.
But would you start him first 11
on paper? Yeah, absolutely.
in place of who?
In place of Carrick.
Carrick finished?
He's not finished, but he needs to bloody get on the park for more than 10 games a season if we're going to be relying on him.
Okay.
I mean, we're going to be playing in more competitions next season, so there's a greater need to rotate players. So we had.
No, you guys won't qualify for the Champions League after that third round game against
Young Boys or something.
East Hungarian side.
Do you think you'll move on Van Persie?
They should.
Well, I think he's gone. Yeah. I mean, the only way we keep him is to really, and this doesn't sound like the kind of thing Van Gaal would do, is because he gets on very well with Depay. But Blin's already there, and Van Gaal's Dutch, so I don't see there's a big problem there. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's gone, most likely to Italy.
He's on $250K a week. Surely you get rid of him. That clears up your wage a huge amount.
You need someone to take it, but yes, it does.
Well, that's massive.
I'm sure there'd still be takers in, Italy or somewhere like that for Van Persie.
I think Italy would suit him. I mean, it's a slower league. He's lost his speed, obviously. But, I mean, I think he'd do all right in Italy.
He might just need a decent run without injury, which I know, like, Cruyff, you've seen him play for 10 years at your club and only have one season without injury, and then... And
he dominated. About a year and a half, he absolutely dominated.
Yeah.
He smashed it. But, I mean, he's older now, too, since then, so his body's not getting any younger. And I think if an offer of maybe 10 million comes in, I'd say get rid of him. He's 32, isn't he?
Yeah, he is 32.
For that anything around 10, you'd bite their hand off.
Yeah. So I think we'll bring in that striker. Because we're not going to have a need for a huge amount of strikers, so I think we'll go with Rooney, one new striker, and James Wilson. So then you play the 4-3-3. You've got Depay will be one of them, and you've got Mata and Di Maria and Januzaj if he doesn't go out on loan. Plus Pereira can play there, and he'll play through the midfield as well next season from the twos. So, yeah, it's so hard to say with Van Gaal. I'm not sure whether he goes and spends the huge amounts of money that we saw kind of last season, or whether he goes, stuff this on the man who had Ajax and brought through a team with an average age of 19 to win a Champions League final. He might just go, well, the reserves good. And I hope that's what he does.
That's a crazy side. That was a crazy side.
I know. It's so bizarre to look at.
Okay, well, anyway, sorry, Cruyff.
I was just going to say the signing of Milner for Liverpool is huge. I think that's a great signing.
Yeah, I think that's pretty good for Liverpool.
Definitely well, and it shows a signal of intent.
Is it for 4 years though? Was that? I mean, Mumba was saying that was sort of what he was asking for at City. So certainly, if it was 4 years, I think that's a bit questionable.
Yeah,
because of his
for the salary that was rumoured. So
yeah, but other than that, no, he'll be a good pickup for them for next season. Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I would have liked us to sign him, but I mean, we're in a better position than Liverpool anyway, so this won't matter. But
he's a perfect signing for a Europa League team. He's a perfect signing for a Europa League team.
Anyway, boys, we might start to wrap it up there. So I might get from each of you your favourite and your least favourite game for the season, just as a bit more of a reflective. So I'll start with Cruyff. What was your favourite Arsenal performance and least favourite Arsenal performance?
I'd say the FA Cup win. Obviously, we won a trophy out of it. Least favourite, probably against Monaco.
Oh yeah.
The abysmal performance, well, if you can even call it that, we put in or didn't put in the first leg of the Champions League tie, but that's what I can remember straight from the top of my head. There was probably some very poor ones in the league too, but they're the two that definitely stand out for me.
Bojan?
Least favourite was the first game of the season.
Oh, okay.
first game of the season against Swansea, because we played them first game of the season under Moyes the previous year and got beaten at home for the first time in ages. And the same bloody thing happened, and we'd had this massive pre-season just dominating everyone. And then, just a complete stamp swift.
Honest question, the 5-3 against Leicester?
Oh, well, the 5-3, I was actually kind of laughing, to be honest. Just like at how bad we were defensively and that kind of stuff. And I was like, well, we scored three pretty sweet goals. I mean, Di Maria's goal was fantastic, but because it was, I mean, no offense, but a lower team, I was kind of happy to let them have their moment in the sun. The fans were obviously delighted about it. But my favourite game, 2-1 at Anfield, one lapper, gets in.
How about you, SM?
Look, I'm trying to think of it. Probably my favourite win was probably, as dour as the actual game was, the win over Liverpool, in the sense that the context of that game, it almost, and I say almost, secured us staying up because of the way that we'd won 2 games in a row and Sunderland was struggling. So coming, after the final whistle blew, we were singing, we are staying up, because we were so sure after that. So, I mean, at the time, that pure emotion, I'd say that's probably my favourite win. Least favourite, look, I mean, there's so many games that I could pick from as least favourites. I mean, we never got thrashed this season, so there's no sort of obvious standout where we got thrashed by one of the bigger sides. So I don't know, maybe the loss to Spurs, because we were up 1-0 and the red card changed everything. And
was that the second last game?
No. This was earlier in the season. We were 1-0 up at half time or something, and then Kane scored, and then Eriksson scored the winner right at the end, I think.
Jamie winner.
Yeah, exactly. So that was probably my least favourite. But there's probably other ones that I've buried in my subconscious now that I've tried to forget about. But yeah, so thank you very much for coming on, boys. And
thanks for having us.
No worries, and thank you so much for the entire season.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
I should give a shout out to Cookson and Type Club and World Cup 2022 and all of the others and Hatchie and Jats and Red Alert and NUFC and everyone who's made an appearance this season, because there's been too many to list now, but it has been great to see such a response to the idea of having a podcast on the Association Football Board, and we'll certainly be back next season. Kudos
to you for organising it and doing it each week and getting everyone together and making it the event that it is.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah. Yeah, as I was chatting to Bojan before this podcast, I'll probably introduce a championship corner next season to give a little update on the championship.
You can talk to Dirty Bird.
Yeah, well, we'll try and get Red Alert on, and we'll try and get some of those guys on and have a bit of a 5-minute segment or something like that on the championship update as Hull continues their unbeaten winning run throughout the entire season on their march back to the Premier League. But anyway, so thanks very much, boys. And thank you, everyone, for listening each week. I hope you've enjoyed the podcast this season. And until next season, we'll see you on the forums.